So the first of these is from a man called John Hodgson, who has previously worked on plenty of other different projects, and he's put together a little bit of an art team and a design team from the group that bought us things like The One Ring and Adventures in Middle Earth.
Hmm.
People will know from Cubicle 7 and stuff like that. And this is Beowulf, Age of Heroes. So this is a sort of mythic adventure designed to sit alongside the fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons rules.
So
But
this
it
just lays
takes
on top of fifth ed rules,
yeah,
then,
so
yeah.
this uses the basic rules from Dungeons and Dragons fifth edition and layers on an entire new world of stuff drawn from Beowulf mythology and that kind of storytelling elements, those kind of storytelling elements. The whole focus of this is that it's primarily designed to be an experience for one GM and one player.
Hmm.
Now, this doesn't mean that you can't play it with a group if you want to, which is cool. But the idea is that one person sits there as the player and plays through the adventure with the one GM. It's the kind of thing that would be pretty good for this kind of isolationist period that we seem to be in right now. The book itself will contain loads of different sort of updated rules and all kinds of different things in there that'll sort of tie things into the Beowulf mythology. So there's going to be a whole bunch of specific classes in there, new rules for having followers. So you don't just have your main character, but also the followers that go along with them. Obviously, Beowulf during the adventures went off with his own pack of geeks to go and raid and all that kind of thing and defeat Grendel's mother and that kind of stuff as well.
Yes.
You'll also find new rules in there for using things like inspiration within D&D. So you might know that that's the thing that where you get to roll 2d20s and pick the highest and that kind of thing. They've thrown that kind of stuff in there as well, which is really awesome too. They've then tied all of that back into like a massively epic set of artwork and stories and poems and maps and all sorts of other things like that to kind of bring the world to life. I actually had a look through a completely free adventure that you can play through right now from these guys called the Hermit Sanctuary, which includes things like pre-generated characters, maps, guides to making your own hall for you to live in, and lords that live within these halls as well. So there's huge guides for doing all of that and everything, which is really fantastic. They've even brought on board two actual poets to write proper Beowulf-style poems within the book, which I think is pretty awesome as
I
well.
love that. So
Yeah.
it's a big package of stuff then. It's
Yeah.
not just a book
Yeah. So you can download that quick play stuff right now, which is a
yeah.
massive package of things. The
Where's
core
that?
book will.
Where's the link to the quick play stuff?
You should be able to find it as you go through that page. It is definitely on there. I'll find it and I'll put it in the show notes for you rather than us hunting around for it and stuff like that. But the core book itself will have all of that content pushed back into it as well. So you'll have all
Well,
of that.
if you scroll up there, Lloyd, just keep going there. Hole for a hero.
Because I'm looking for some examples because they don't really have any of these things on their actual.
You'll have to. So yeah, you can look through the book a bit there, but you'll have to download the whole thing and all that kind of stuff to look through it. But I can tell you now, it is full of really awesome stuff.
It has minis.
Yes, as well as that, they've decided that if you want to try and tell the story with miniatures on the tabletop, then they've teamed up with a group of people to create some miniatures that are specifically designed for this adventure. So there's miniatures there for your hero, and then some of the companions that you might meet along the way, and all that kind of thing as well. They've also taken a lot of sort of inspiration from things like Adventures in Middle Earth and The One Ring, which are really fascinating role-playing games because they've put in stuff in there to kind of build on the idea of journeys and travel and the kind of things that happen as you do that. And so making it so that adventures don't just take place within a certain amount of weeks or months, but instead take place over years potentially, where things sort of waft and wane and all that kind of thing as well. So much like with Beowulf's own history, he grew up, he was that warrior, that raider that went off to go and defeat Grendel and Grendel's mother. And then there was a huge time gap where it jumped to him being older and being the king and all that kind of thing as well. So there's some really awesome stuff mixed in there too. They've also done things like this. So there's the Beowulf compass, which is really awesome, a really highly detailed little compass that they've done, which is just a nice little accessory for you to use in the game as well, which is really cool. And they've got things like dice mats and all sorts of other things too.
I'd use that for like order priority or something like that.
You've also got those things that are like inspiration tokens. So as I was saying, you get given inspiration tokens for doing things in the game to give you advantage and stuff when you're playing D&D. They've got some sort of really nice buff looking versions of those too, which is very cool. So it really is like a sort of little labor of love when it comes to what they put together for this little project here. And if you like the idea of playing something like D&D, but in a solo or two-player effectively context, then this is a really awesome way to go and do it. One thing they did talk about with this adventure and this sort of system as a whole, I think is really cool, is that just because you're meant to play it with one person doesn't mean you can't then take it and play it with another person and another person and another person. And because of the fact that those people will make different characters and they'll make different decisions, it should be fascinating for that person who's playing the GM every single time they sit down to play it, which I think is really cool. And they said one of the cool things about that is that for every time you do it, you're going to get slightly better at telling the story, and you're going to be able to add, sort of embellish and throw more things into the mix and all that kind of thing as well. And then maybe take all those kind of inspirations and bring them together into a larger group game as well, which I think is really cool.
That and the fact that it's Beowulf, man.
As Beowulf. Who wouldn't want to play as Beowulf or one of Beowulf's companions? It's awesome. Yeah.
It's awesome. Right, 18 days left on that, guys. So if you're interested, that's one to check out.